their cruelty in going after Meghan uh, was just outrageous. And the fact she did not get more support, that the reaction was, let's just paper it over and pretend that it didn't happen or it will go away. Just keep your head down. Well, this young woman was not about to keep her head down. This is 2021.
Wanna know why I really dislike wokeness? Why I can't call myself a left-leaning person anymore? It's not because I don't want to help marginalized people. It's quite the contrary. I do want to help them, and I think wokeness takes away from that. What do I mean by this? Here, a picture speaks 1,000 words. I don't need to add anything. It's self-evident. Back in 2012, people were actually trying to hold the rich accountable. They were genuinely going to the people that caused the problem, and they were saying enough. 6 years later, and what do we see? Well, J.P. Morgan managed to make people happy, didn't they? It's not that they improved their lifestyle or anything, but now J.P. Morgan is a progressive and woke corporation. Meaning that they're not doing anything wrong. Because how can someone who speaks the language of the woke ever do anything wrong? And at the end of the day, this is what it is. It's about speaking. It's about saying things. It's not about action. You don't have to do anything as long as you claim you stand for the correct things. Case in point, I now have to watch the world's wealthiest and most powerful people, literal royalty, I can actually use that word for once, properly. And I have to watch their sob stories and their family dramas. And I have to care. I have to pretend that these rich people who have literally everything require just one more thing in their life. My sympathy. That's what they need. They need my sympathy. They have everything else, but this is the thing that they covet the most because it's the only thing that would make them happy, I suppose. The sympathy of the common folk. Look, I'm sorry, I grew up in a very impoverished neighborhood. I was dealing with things that I don't think these people dealt with a single day in their life. Like how to put food on the table. What to do if your cat is sick and you don't have money to take it to the vet. What to do when grandma gets sick and you don't have money to take her to the doctor. Normal people's problems. But I suppose this ideology allows the people with net worths of over 50 millions and royal titles to claim victimhood. You see, we are all tied in suffering now. They experience some level of suffering that I can never understand how it's like. And I should acknowledge and be empathetic and admit that what is happening is an absolute cruelty and injustice. And I now need to dedicate every single second of my life to try to improve the world so Meghan Markle can feel more comfortable. Don't cry in your bags of money, lady, because honestly, I would rather listen to the sob story of a homeless person. Why don't we hear from those people anymore? Did you notice that we don't hear about the poor anymore? When's the last time you saw a homeless person on Opera? When's the last time you saw a person that had his business destroyed and went on the streets on Opera? When's the last time you even seen people talk about donating to the poor, feeding the homeless, trying to save kids with cancer? When did you see that? Because I have forgot when was the last time I saw it on television. All I see is rich people with their sob stories. And don't get me wrong, I am pretty sure that rich people have very interesting sob stories to tell. But would you ever tell me that a homeless person wouldn't exchange all the rich person's suffering for their wealth in a heartbeat? Are you actually wanting to tell me that a rich person is more oppressed and we need to hear more from them than we get to hear from an actual person that's being marginalized? And by the way, if you're on Opera, you're not being marginalized now, are you? People who are marginalized don't get to have voices. They don't get to speak. When is the last time you saw any of these corporations that wants to give voices to the marginalized, bring someone that's homeless, or bring someone that's in financial ruin and distress, or bring someone that's actually a person dying from a rare illness? When is the last time you saw that? Because I can't remember. Can you? Yeah, sorry, I go a little bit into a rant. You know why? And you know why I'm like this? Do you want to know why am I an individual that really emphasizes the fact that no one is going to help you out? Because when I was poor, no one cared. Literally no one cared. And you know what? If I'm going to be poor again, I bet no one will care again. But if you're a wealthy person, you can go on Opera and talk about your issues and everyone cares. So, okay, let's look at her issues. Let's talk about her bad decisions. Can we even hold people accountable now for bad decisions? Or is the moment that a person claims victimhood, we have to treat them like royalty. We have to treat them like, oh, well, they couldn't do anything wrong. It's not their fault, it's society. So this wealthy lady from Hollywood wants to marry into royalty, and she doesn't even do the research. Like, how do you marry someone without even asking them about their parents? How do you get to that point where you want to marry a person and you don't know anything about their family and it never comes up in a conversation? Because apparently she was utterly astonished over the fact that she has to do a curtsy. Like, she didn't know this. Like, she was like, oh, I thought it's just a public thing. And when Prince Harry told her, well, it's the Queen, she was like, whoa. And then she claims she never looked it up. Not once did she look it up, but you don't have to look it up. Whatever happened with communication in a relationship? Why didn't you talk to the man? Why didn't you ask him till that point? If I was to marry a very wealthy person, I would ask them about their family at least once before the wedding. And by the way, a lot of people criticize Meghan because, oh, well, she wasn't royalty. She was just an American. Like, they don't have royal titles. Why would someone from the royal family marry someone without titles? No, like, trust me, okay? Just because she doesn't have titles doesn't mean she's not royalty. She is American royalty, American elites. Says everything that you need to know when you talk about a left-leaning American elite. The type of person that feels only entitlement and not a single responsibility. So, of course, they wouldn't like it when they go into the royal family that is just brim with responsibility. I mean, yeah, sure, you're the queen or you're a royal person, but you can't have political opinions. You can't have the ability to dress any way you want. Harry couldn't marry whomever he wants. He had to get permission from the queen. Like, look it up. Look at the protocol. There's an entire list of protocol that you need to follow. So for an American, that's all about freedom and it's all about expression and doing whatever they want. Yeah, I can see how that would be a bad thing, which is why it would have been a good idea if you talked to the man before getting married with him. Or maybe she did talk with the man and now is just trying to change the protocol, which, by the way, she probably is very successful at. Being a member of a royal family has many advantages. You will never want anything in your life. You have all the money, you don't pay taxes, you get a lot of prestige without doing anything, just by being born in there. But at the same time, there are a lot of downsides. All your life is now becoming monitored. You're in the public spotlight. You can't have political opinions, and I went through all the other things. But for an American, they can't do this trade-off. Like, no, they want the gibs. They want the free stuff. It's like, oh, I want the respect. I want the money. I want not to pay taxes. I want to be a princess. But at the same time, they don't want any of the other stuff. That's not how Europeans do things. It's like, if you want stuff, you have responsibilities as well. They come in a package. Okay, so that's addressing the curtsy issue. The second issue is that she had dark thoughts. And you know what? If I was her, I would probably have dark thoughts too. I'm not even kidding. I'm not justifying it. But just think about it. Like, can you imagine having a life where nothing has value anymore? Because you already can get whatever you want. Do you know what keeps me going? Do you know what makes me wake up at night? The fact that I have goals. The fact that I have ambitions. It's like, okay, I bought a new house. Now I need to pay for the mortgage. I need to buy some furniture. I need to upgrade my video equipment. I need to consider how I will pay if I want to have a child in the future. Like, these are goals that keep me going. I can't imagine how it would be if I had all the money and I could fulfill all of my goals right now. I don't know what the purpose to go on anymore would be. Well, no, seriously, just think about it. Like, when you have so much money, everything around you doesn't have value. It's like a loaf of bread. People in the past would write books about the conquest of bread. Why? Because bread was rare back then, and it had value. Nowadays, when bread is cheap, and you can get it whenever you want, how many times did your bread not get moldy because you couldn't eat it in time? And then you had to throw it away. Why do you do that? Because it doesn't have value. You wouldn't throw something valuable away now, would you? And that is the difference. I can definitely think that a lifestyle like this, for some people like myself, wouldn't be heaven, it would actually be hell. I need to have goals. I need to have ambitions. I need to have things that I just cannot buy right now, so that I can wake up in every morning and want to achieve that thing. And it strives you to be a better person. It tries to make you to improve. It's like, okay, I did a lot of money. How can I improve my business? I will make more videos. I will focus on more interesting topics. I'll learn to edit. I'll have a different background. That's how I think. And that's why it's a good thing not to have everything. I'm not saying it's good not to have nothing, but like you should strike a balance where you have a lot, but you don't have everything. I mean, look at the house they're living in. For the love of God, these people talk about saving the planet and protecting the environment. This house looks like a tuberculosis in Mother Gaia's lung. How many trees had to be cut down in order to have such a mansion for two fucking people? Two people! I just cannot comprehend. I'm not even talking about the furniture inside, like the tree genocide that they had to commit in order to build all that shit. And these are the people that lectured me about the environment. My carbon footprint does not even measure to half of theirs. Who have private jets and fly around. This is why I hate wokeness. This is why I despise it. It's not about action. These are not two people that are trying to live like hippies in order to show as an example on how to protect the planet. No, these are some of the biggest carbon footprint people in the world that then go on television and lecture you, yes, you, about why you are a bad person and why you should pay more taxes. Yeah, I just don't get it. I don't get it why people follow this ideology. Is it out of fear? That's the only explanation that I have. It's out of fear that if you don't follow it, you get fired. That is literally it. Because I can't explain it any other way. Why do people follow hypocrites time and time again? Like, it doesn't matter if they do an action. All it matters is that A, you're rich, so you have the connections to go on the mainstream media, and B, you're moralizing other people. You don't have to be a good person. You have to moralize others and be rich and have connections. These people live next to opera. Like, literally next door. Like, imagine the neighborhood. Yes, the worldview that a person that makes $2.7 billion is oppressed. Like, they are just as oppressed as anyone else. And it's being promoted. No wonder all the corporations are supporting it, because it doesn't hurt their bottom line. It never will. The previous leftist movement, the one that I was part of, the one that looks at class and looks at wealth, oh yeah, that definitely hurts their bottom line. They don't like that. So they replaced it with this, and it's working. What else did she say? Oh yeah, then it's the bizarro thing, which got Piers Morgan fired, and we're going to talk about that. But she claims that because she had dark thoughts, the royal house did not allow her to seek medical help because it would have been a scandal. Now, she's not showing any evidence of such a big claim because she doesn't have to, okay? She's a woke person. It's like Don Lemon on CNN said, he doesn't even need to hear what the royals have to say. The conversation is over. Like, it rings true because she fits his predetermined notion, preconceived definition of what an oppressed person looks like. And whatever she says is true. I mean, at this point, she can literally say anything because Don Lemon will believe it because it rings true. She doesn't have to provide any facts or any evidence because that's how woke culture works. We should literally just reshape our entire society at this point. Just get away with the legal system and replace it with just the accusation. And then you don't even need to hear the other side. At least Don Lemon was 100% honest. Who cares about what the other side has to say? Honestly, the law is exactly like a medieval time. Woke people are now royalty. Literally royalty. And you know how it was in medieval time? The law only applied between peers. If two nobles had a problem, the law applies. If two peasants have a problem, the law applies. If a noble and a peasant have a problem, it's always the noble that's right. Every single time, doesn't matter what the law says, doesn't matter what's written, the judge always needs to side with the noble. And in this case, it's exactly what Don does as a judge. He looks at who is the royalty here, the woke person, Markle. Markle is the royalty. Who are not the royalty? The queen. When has the queen talked about protecting the environment? When has she ever talked about minorities? When she ever stood against race? She never did, which is why she's not woke, which is why she's not royalty, which is why she's wrong. Automatically. Doesn't matter. Like, we don't even need to hear her side of the story. So, a person that is a little bit more skeptical, when hearing such a claim that she is suffering dark thoughts, maybe she is. I'm not saying she's not. But what I am saying is that I find it very difficult to believe that the royal family does not have a private doctor, that there is no doctor-patient confidentiality, and that they were worried that her seeking help, professional help, is going to be a scandal. However, if her condition deteriorates and gets worse, is that not going to be a worse scandal? Is that not going to make it worse? So no, seriously, like, I'm trying to understand the logic here. Because if what Meghan is saying, then the royal family must be mentally challenged. Like, Britain must be ruled by a family of mentally challenged people, because I don't get it otherwise. If someone comes to you and says, look, I got some mental issues, can you help? The first thing that I would think, okay, well, if I send her to a doctor, it's going to be a scandal. But what if she actually does harm to herself? Oh my God, like the scandal would be immense. It's better that I would send her to a doctor. Like, doesn't that how normal people think? And then she goes on about how her baby is not going to have titles. And at that point, there was a human connection between Meghan Markle and I. I finally managed to empathize with her plight. Because my baby, too, is never going to have titles. And as such, I definitely can understand. But of course, the reason it's a bad thing is because it's implied racismus, okay? They just don't want to give the title to the babies because of his skin color. And I'm like, okay, let's read what the law says. Oh, by law, it's not supposed for the baby to get title. By law. Ah, so it's not racismus, is it? And again, like, I now have to wonder, is Meghan an airhead and she literally just didn't read the law? Like, you want to tell me that when the conversation popped up and she went like, Harry, what title will our baby have? And Harry said, no title. And Meghan went, okay. But inside, like, there was a turmoil. What would a normal person ask the following most reasonable question that anyone can ask? Why not? Why will our baby not have? And do you not think that Harry would have responded to her? It's because it's not the law. It's not how it works. They changed the law. It's man, it's absolutely fascinating, isn't it? No, I really get it. Like, this woman gets everything she wants. Little, like, the power she's got is that of a queen. Yes, Queen Slay. I don't know what else to say. I mean, look what she's doing to Harry. Look. Took the guy's guns, like, the guy had the hobby. Look at his facial expression. Look at his eyes. Look how his soul has gone away. Like, the guy had the hobby, all right? He liked hunting. You know what else did to him? Took away his tea. Took away his alcohol. This is not a person that is used to not getting her way. This is a very determined person, knows exactly what she's doing, very savvy, very charismatic, very capable in getting her way. And you want me to believe that she is a victim here? You want me to believe that this $2.2 million net worth person married with another person of $50 million with connections to a $2.7 billion person, and you want normal people like myself, who are even ashamed to talk about my net worth, to care for these people, to think that they're the victims, that society has wronged them? And even so, why can't we hear from the people in the ghettos? Why can't we hear from the people in the hoods? Do you know why? Do you want to know why they will never put a person that's from an impoverished neighborhood to talk on the mainstream media? Do you want to know why? Because if someone like from, say, Baltimore or Detroit or any place that's been impoverished or hit by the lockdowns and the quarantine, if any of them would get to speak and they would say their mind, people would start holding politicians to account. People would look up and be like, yeah, wait, why is the situation the way it is? Why hasn't things improved for decades for these people? Why is that a thing? And then the politicians look bad. But instead, if you give a little bit of bread and circus with Harry and Meghan, who gets to decide? What politician gets to be held to account? The Queen, I suppose. But who cares about the Queen? It's not like she's part of the in-group. She's apolitical. Not to mention, she's part of the old racist British history, which needs to be dismantled. So yeah, that's why this spectacle. That's why the news is covering this. So it doesn't cover actual problems that affect people like you and me, the commoners. That's why it gets me upset. You know, that's why it really gets me upset. Instead of talking about important issues that affect people like you and I, we get to talk about this. What a joke. And then, by the way, like the Queen, oh my God. The Queen issued a statement to the accusations of racism. And you can smell the PR bullshit from a mile away. Like, you definitely know that the reason the statement is what it is because the Queen didn't write it herself. She probably hired the PR team. Because it's so cookie cutter that you have seen this apology before a million times to the point where you recognize it. And it's like, oh yeah, this does sound like a corporate speak. This does sound like plastic people talk. And the Queen is like, oh, well, I kind of admire her right to come forward and speak. It's like, what do you mean? Like, if you're saying that what she is saying is false, why are you admiring it? In what situation would a normal person admire when someone comes up to slander you? I go, yeah, I admire your slander. It's like, look, you're saying that what she is saying didn't happen, right? Like, am I following correctly? Okay, like that's her truth. That is the Queen's truth. What she is saying. So why would you admire her right to come forward? It makes no sense. Like, my brain just starts short-circuiting. And then, and I'm paraphrasing here, she says something like, well, I don't recall it happening the way she describes it. Which pretty much means it's like, no, I doubt what she is saying is true. Like, if I were to have a conversation with you, and you say, hey, V, I remember you insulting my mother yesterday, and I would say, well, I don't recall that's the way it happened. That doesn't mean that what I'm trying to convey is that I'm being polite and I'm saying, like, no, you're lying. Huh? Is that what actually means? Is that what words are trying to... But no, now everyone is saying, no. You see, like what the Queen said is that she admits it. So the Queen is guilty. Like, look, her apology, she's guilty. Let's cancel the Queen. Can you impeach the Queen? Can you... Like, literally, there's journalists that are trying to impeach the Queen. Now, Piers Morgan, which is a left-leaning person. I mean, he is not a individual that is by any means right-wing. The only way you could call him right-wing is that society has moved so far to the left that Piers, being pro-capitalism and being, I think, like literally one of the only, if not the only, the last British patriot on British channels, might make him right-wing. You know, like, he doesn't hate Winston Churchill. And that's considered very patriotic nowadays. Like, he actually defended Winston Churchill when his statue was being defaced. He was like, wait. Like, every now and then, he still defends people's right to speak. It's like, yeah, I disagree with it, but like the concept of free speech. What a fascist, right? So Piers Morgan basically says that he doesn't believe Meghan. Like, blanket statement. He doesn't believe her. And the weatherman sees racism in the clouds, I suppose, and goes like, no, like, it's her truth. The fuck does that mean it's her truth? Like, there is one truth. I don't care what her truth is. Like, for example, if you have a child and you catch him playing with the stove and you tell him, never play with the stove again, it's dangerous. And the next day you see him playing with the stove again and there's gas in the entire house. So what you do is you punish him, you send him to his room, and you lock him up there. You ground him as punishment. And the kid starts to cry. Is the kid's sorrow real? Yes, he wants out of the room. He doesn't want to be punished. But is it justified, his crying? No, it's not justified, because he was told that playing with it is dangerous, so he shouldn't do it. There are rules. He broke them. So not every single person that has their version of truth is necessarily justified. People can have versions of truth, but that doesn't mean that they're justified. So I completely agree. I completely agree with what Piers Morgan is saying. But apparently the weatherman didn't. And Piers Morgan explains to the weatherman, it's like, look, the reason Archie didn't get Nobel titles is not because of racism, but it's because the law. And then the weatherman goes like, well, yes, but what if we look at it this way? So like, the weatherman is literally trying his best to make any sort of possibility err on the side of racism. Like, why would you do that? Why would you do that? Like, what is the like trying to create all of these imaginary circumstances just to make the royals look bad. Because that's the thing when you believe a victim, right? If I believe a victim, automatically that means that there is an abuser. So it's not the problem that you believe the victim that's the issue. The problem is that you automatically accuse people. If you believe every single person that claims someone casted a spell on them, then you also believe that there is a fucking witch now, aren't you? And what is the next step? To persecute the witch. That is the problem that people have with believing all the nonsense. There is a difference between acknowledging that a person feels wronged and supporting them to seek justice, to go to the authorities and look for justice that way. Okay, that is normal behavior, which should be encouraged. And then there is abnormal behavior when you take every single word that a person says as gospel and you automatically believe that there is a villain that needs to be punished. And you don't even care what the villain has to say because the victim story always rings true. So Piers Morgan walks out. He walks out, gets upset. Do you know what happens? He gets fired. Do you know why he gets fired? Not because he walked out. No. He gets fired because Meghan made a complaint to the government body that legiferates how television functions. Yes, Britain actually has such a legal body, and Americans want it as well. Like a government organization that its entire purpose is to censor television. And she is the victim. Okay, like you live in a society where you have the richest person with connections that can get any critics of her fired. And because a pleb, okay, because a nobody said that he doesn't believe her, he didn't take action against her. He didn't encourage other people not to believe her. He personally doesn't believe her. And because he said that, he gets fired, right? His words have offended her, and she has managed to fire him, and she's the victim. Man, I mean, I'm starting to think victimhood is a social construct, because really, if I were to watch an event where a person loses their livelihood and another person has mean words said to them, I would say that the person losing their livelihood is the victim. There is no way that I would ever, no, it's impossible. It's just words. Why couldn't she say something negative about him? And then they would be even. Because it's not about being even. It's about vengeance and retribution and putting him in his place and sending a message to other people that want to do the same, that want to doubt her. How can you doubt Meghan? No wonder all the CNN journalists are saying what she's saying rings true. They're pissing their pants. They're terrified. I would be terrified as well. I mean, clearly she wields a lot of power. And this is the world we live in. It hasn't changed. And the more, isn't it funny, the more social justice you get, the more rich people have power. How the fuck does that work? How can you still be woke when you see this in full display? I genuinely think the only reason people are woke is because they're terrified. They're looking at this and they're like, holy crap, if you actually say that you don't believe another human being, that's literally it. You just claim, I don't believe them. Then you get fired. Well, I need to think every single day that I'm alive that Meghan Markle is not some sort of prophet. Like, imagine if she comes up with a religion tomorrow. People will have to believe it because it rings true. Maybe she watches Stargate and comes up with the concept of the Ori and starts lecturing people and proselytizing. And then everyone will have to believe it, because if you don't believe it, you get fired. Sorry for the rant, but it's just upsetting when you analyze things and you pierce the veil. This is how every single human analysis should be made, from the point of economics. Who makes money, who loses money? Who has power, who loses power? You look at it and the world looks completely different. Definitely not the way that they want you to look at it. And by they, I mean the rich. They want you to look at from the prism of identity and race. You see, despite the fact that Meghan is such a wealthy woman and she will never lack for anything. She will never lack for healthcare or food or any of these nonsense. But there was suffering there. There was true human suffering going on. Yeah. Unfortunately, we don't have time to focus on other people's suffering. They're not as important. Like Meghan is. She's got connections. But she's suffering. Okay. I'm sorry to hear that. What do you want me to do? You know what? I'll give her my empathy. I mean, if it means that much to her, if she literally is the last thing that she doesn't have, I'll give her my empathy. I am so sorry this happened to you. I genuinely am. I truly am. Like, I just hope in the future you won't have to go through any of this suffering that I will personally never be able to relate to. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the comment section. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Helps out with the algorithm, and I'll see you there.